Hey Nerf Herders, I'm Addy Thomas.
And I am Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Certain Point of View. We are taking our next steps into the Star Wars universe. We're bringing you news. We're bringing you our perspectives on content in the Star Wars universe as we're able to consume it, whether it's comics, movies, TV shows. If we have special topics or special guests in the Star Wars universe, we will also delve into those. Before we go any further, though, I do want to remind you that you can go to our website, check out all the podcasts that are part of Certain Point of View. Just go to our website, certainpov.com. You can check out podcasts like Another Pass with Kay Sakin, Fun and Games with Matt and Jeff, Scruffy Nerf Herders, a Star Wars D20 story. It's our crazy Dungeons & Dragons style adventure in the Star Wars universe. You can find all of those on our website, certainpov.com. While you're also there, we'd really appreciate if you got a chance to check out Maria Monzon, who is my insurance agent, and she is one of the supporters of Certain Point of View. In fact, she's helped me get a number of different rates on insurance for that we've needed as far as launching this business, as far as getting my car insurance, getting renter's insurance, and she's been an absolutely amazing and help and an immense resource, and just someone who just makes it a whole lot easier to navigate that, just complicated and sort of just crazy detailed so that it makes you feel confused and frustrated world of insurance. So fortunately, Maria Monzon is someone who can help you out with that. So if you're looking for insurance, or if you know someone who is, please be sure to refer Maria. Her contact information is on our website, certainpov.com, and you can find all of it there under our supporters. All right, let's get into the episode today. We've been reading a number of comics. We're trying to actually catch up to Star Wars comics where they are, so week to week, as they come out, we can actually talk about those issues when they're current. But I think what we do a little bit of a disservice if we didn't catch up on these various series. So right now we're kind of moving through Poe Dameron right now. We got to we did Volume 1 a little while ago. Now we just finished up Volume 2, and Ben, what are your sort of initial thoughts on this volume?
It picks up and carries on with what the first volume did, and I like it. All the things that the first volume did, the second volume does again, and it just does it really, really well. I mean, I'm really impressed, and I'm curious to see what the process is with Lucasfilm and these comic books, as far as what is the process for writing these stories, and how it all plays out. Do they know where they go? Do they have set beats that they have to hit and stuff like that? So I'm curious. I'm really curious to read more of the Marvel. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that I'm actually enjoying these as much as I am.
That's a little hurtful that you had kind of counted it out, because I think I'd been telling you for a while you got to read a bunch, and we read a little bit early on, especially when we first started the podcast.
Yeah, and other than the little things that they've done with the droids, that have been very much in the same vein as Clone Wars episodes with the droids, where they're just a little bit silly and definitely aimed at kids. But the rest of this stuff has just been fantastic Star Wars storytelling, I think. What about you?
I think it's some of their best. This is real. Honestly, I had actually read part of this already a while ago, and so I had reread some of this, and now I had finally gotten past the point I had left off with the Poe Dameron series in this volume, and this particular arc here is actually what endeared me to Poe more than any other of the series, and more than the movies too. Last Jedi is a really good deconstruction of his character and his motivations and his role, but this really does a great job establishing him. And establishing Agent Terex, a really good foil for him, a really good villain for him, that really, really, is strong where Poe is weak. And that's really fun to see, because in a lot of ways, Poe's a little bit of a, as much as he's a hotshot, and he's clearly very talented, he bumbles through life a little bit.
Well, that's because he's so talented. He can get by on his talent. And we've all seen those people. who
oh yeah,
don't try very hard, and they always seem to get by, and that
someone helps them out because they love them. They're charismatic.
Yeah, they're super charismatic. They're the football quarterback and the popular kid in school, and all the girls fawn over him because he's dreamy and good looking and charming and talented and athletic, and nobody flies better than he does. It's almost a Tom Cruise character. But yeah, you're right. Like having Terex as that foil who is like super calculating, super thoughtful, super directed. It's cool because it's the opposite. And so oftentimes in comic books, like you see not the opposite of the person, but all of Spider-Man's villains are all other scientists, and all of Wolverine's villains are all other like mutants with anger issues and stuff. It's nice to see them go, okay, no, like let's have him face the opposite of what he is,
right,
and let that reveal his character, which is very cool storytelling for comic books.
And more than just as a character, but also in their sort of past and future, because, Terex is very much a relic of a past that he wants to keep alive and reinvigorate and get revenge for. And Poe is this sort of like, he's the poster boy for the new resistance and the Republic and all sorts of things. He's the future. So I find them like such an interesting contrast between the two characters. And Terex, I think, is a very fascinating villain. It's not the first methodical villain. It's not the first calculating villain that we've seen in the Star Wars universe. We have Grand Moff Tarkin. We have Grand Admiral Thrawn. Palpatine definitely has those kind of attributes as well. But this is a guy that we have who sort of I like sort of the bridge between the Empire and the underworld that he provides.
Yes.
As he's trying to survive, and as he's such a believer in his cause, you find out what he does and how he has to deal with the people around him, and even the betrayal he felt at the hands of one of his friends who was manipulating him. I didn't feel sympathy for him, but I did find his motivations very interesting, and it made him feel much more like a developed and like an actual character and person, not just a caricature of something.
You're right. Like, and to take that time and to put that in the story of him being betrayed, really it makes him a believable character and not just some cackling mad villain twirling his mustache and and doing bad things. But
right,
yeah, I really like that. I liked the fact that they did that to him, because I felt like it did breathe some life into him, in the same way that in Rebels this last couple seasons with Grand Moff Tarkin, the way they've taken some time to just like have some quieter moments with him. And to kind of like delve into his thought process of why he's so interested in the art of all these different civilizations that he
You mean Thrawn?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yes. What did I say?
Tarkin.
Oh, Tarkin. Yeah, no, Thrawn. Where he's interested in the art, and that's how he studies his prey, basically. I thought this did a similar thing. I thought it was really, really smart, really, really good to develop a character like that in a comic book.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the right place to do that. This is like none of this stuff. Like, I mean, sure, you could potentially make movies out of this kind of material, or TV shows out of this material. But you know what? Like, this is just the right stories for comics, and it really takes advantage of what they can do there. This never feels like the kind of stuff that feels like, oh, well, I wish I was seeing this in a movie at this moment. And I really appreciate it, but I'm totally engaged, in every panel when I'm reading this. There's more we could talk about this. I wanted to also hit on, we get some reveals in this, like finally who the mole is in Black Squadron.
Were you surprised?
What's funny? Yeah, actually, I kind of was surprised.
I was too.
Yeah, I really didn't expect that. I didn't like that. That's a character, and we're not going to spoil it. We'll just let it go. But it's not a character that I saw in the forefront. Like, I felt like I could come up with reasons for at least two of the other characters there to be like, you know what, they seem like they might have been a little bit shady or have enough motivation, maybe even good
motivation.
Like, it ends justifies the means type of mentality with one character. So yeah, I thought that was good. It was a nice little piece that they did. It was a little bit more interconnected than I necessarily needed it to be. For his motivation, but you know what? It was totally fine. That's such a minor quibble with that kind of story. So, Star Wars has always been a story that likes to connect some dots. Sometimes it connects, too more dots than it needs to.
I mean, it's a big goddamn universe, and everybody's related.
Well, that's why. Yeah, exactly. Right, which is what it was. I mean. We could go down a rabbit hole about The Last Jedi, but that's, again, one thing. I was talking to a couple friends today, and that's one of those things that I appreciate about The Last Jedi, that it doesn't feel the need to connect every single dot, and that it opens up the possibilities in doing so, instead of like, oh, well, I guess we're disappointed because midichlorians and Greedo was hanging out with little Anakin, in Mos Espa, and all these, details that we don't really need along the way. So I appreciate that this though does expand out the Star Wars universe, though. So
right.
This comic doesn't have that problem, especially because we have a character like Agent Terex that's been added, and that has such a fascinating dynamic with the First Order, as he's working with Captain Phasma and how he reports to them, but feels like he's above them because he's part of the old guard and he doesn't respect the new guard. I've heard a lot, and I heard it today again. People complaining about like, I wish I want a little bit more explanation of how the First Order came to be and why they're there and how they're there.
That stuff is out there. Yeah, that stuff is out there. It's not in the movies because you only have an hour and a half. But it's out there. And then you have the problems that you had in the prequels where you over-explain. But fortunately, comics and books are the perfect forum for that kind of information. So, do you feel like it's almost required? And we've had this conversation before of like the pros and cons of having an expanded universe and how required is it?
I don't think it's required. Here's the thing. So. It's unfair to judge the sequel movies on level of detail because there's so much detail that's been filled out over the years in the original trilogy by ourselves, by what we do in video games, by what we've done in books and comics, in the prequels, our own imaginations, toys, all sorts of stuff. I mean, like, you got to remember, like, there are plenty of characters that don't have their names mentioned in the movies, and the first time they ever get a name is on their action figure. That is like, that's Star Wars lore is such a weird beast. And yes, everyone connects with it in a different way, and if there's a particular book that resonated with them, that's awesome. I'm like, we've all, like, I know we love, like, whenever we have a guest, I love finding out, like, how did they discover Star Wars? What was their what was the first thing that really appealed to them and drew them into that universe? So I'm always excited to see what, like, all the various things that bind people together into the Star Wars universe. But I think the movies are far simpler and are in some ways like, and this isn't meant to be insulting to the movies, but they're dumb movies.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
They're fun
for
movies.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're open enough into interpretation because it's good mythology. Like, good mythology is often missing on details and has major plot holes all the time. You and I have been raised in a Christian tradition, and the Bible is full of plot holes. If you want to raise that kind of issue to it, even like the same books covering similar events will have various tellings of it. It's perspective changes things. So the power of these stories has always been like what you can draw from it, what appeals to you, that they're open enough that they appeal on in a broad range, but still have simple truths that can be taken from them and then expanded out into interesting things, into interesting ideas, and become interesting discussions. That's why, a big part of why we started this podcast is because we love those discussions. So the simplicity is important, but because we've lived with this movie starting in 1977, there's so much added on it. There's so much of you growing up and rewatching these movies at different times in your life and having different interactions with them, or thinking about it differently and having a different interaction without even having to rewatch the movie. So we really just haven't had enough time, honestly, with these sequel movies. I think in some ways, as much as we give Clone Wars a lot of credit for helping, do some work to kind of fix the prequels a little bit.
Right.
I actually think we do a little bit of a disservice to the prequels on that, and I know this is a weird thing to say because still categorically I feel like the prequels are not good movies.
Even for Star Wars movies.
Exactly. But that being said, there is so many discussions I've had out of those movies and thoughts of okay, well, what is the author trying to say here? What's the point of this? What is this all kind of trying to find meaning in these stories?
Right.
The problem, the Clone Wars helped add on to that, but even those prequels, we had time to digest them before we added more material.
Right, and I think that when you're talking about the prequels, like the problem isn't the story, and the problem isn't the mythology. The problem is the execution.
Right.
In those stories. And that's okay. I mean, not every movie is going to be a masterpiece, and I think George got way too much grief for not executing a perfect movie. Like,
right.
That's not. It's never been his forte. He's never been a great director. He's a great mythology and world builder and storyteller. Like that's his ability, and a great marketer as well. So yeah, I think like I bringing it back to the comic book, I think you're right. Like I think like this helps develop the Star Wars universe at large, but it's not required. But if you do want to go deeper than just the surface that the movies provide, like this is a great place. The comics and the books, I think so far I like the comic books a lot better than the books, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm on that same page, but I haven't read enough books to really.
I'm kind of like 50-50 on the books. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. But the comic books so far, like I've really enjoyed just about everything that we've read so far, and I'm looking forward to reading more. This Poe Dameron series has been great. Like it made me appreciate him even more in The Last Jedi. Like it made his fall in The Last Jedi mean a little bit more.
Exactly.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's what supplementary materials like this are supposed to do, right? So
right.
I can't recommend these enough. Like I'm super excited to read more.
Absolutely, yeah. Here's another little addition to the world that I really enjoyed. I love the idea of 3PO's spy network.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Like when I first read it, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense, right?
Right. He's a master at communications, or maybe not a master, but
he certainly speaks a lot of languages.
Exactly. I thought that was a really cool dynamic to kind of add to 3PO, and it was sort of a fun way to bring someone familiar to Star Wars in the Star Wars universe.
That, yeah.
And it didn't feel forced in any way.
No, it's actually a pretty logical step for his character.
Yeah. So I thought that was fun. I love the dynamic with that really that droid that was really difficult to deal with.
But he's had a lot of practice with R2, so.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a little bit of the same sort of BB-8 Ex Machina type moments. They really love BB-8, and you know what? I love BB-8 as well, but I think they could scale that back just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. They have him doing a little too much. And like they did this with R2 too, where like in the prequels, where you're like, wait, like what? He can fly now? Like what's happening here? Like he's shooting oil slicks. Like what is happening? Right. Like he couldn't do any of this stuff. Like he could barely get through a sand dune.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's sort of a weird thing to see. But yeah, this is what's nice is this is one of the ones that does a good job of using droids in a way that really, really kind of works. Was there any other sort of standout characters or moments that you really liked in this particular volume?
I mean, not without giving too much away in spoilers. So no.
Okay.
That we have, and then
I know
that we haven't
usually we
already
go into
talked about,
spoilers, and maybe we will for the next volume. But I think the experience of this particular volume is really worth reading through, especially if you have any sort of interest in Poe. That it's definitely worth picking up this volume. You know, you get and while it's nice to have the volume before it, I think you could pick up this volume on its own
and get into it,
enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think the characters are interesting enough.
You lose a little bit of the history with what's his name,
Terex.
But, you know, their initial run in and stuff, but it's still totally, you can dive right in there.
Right. Well, Volume 1 does a good job of sort of building the mystery of, like, who is Terex and why does he have this much power, not just with the First Order, but also in the underworld. And then finally coming to explain it here is sort of a really interesting, what was really kind of cool. So, we've got one piece of news, though, before we wrap up, and that is Matt Smith is also cast to join Episode 9. So he was one of the former doctors on Doctor Who. So we've got some additional blood. I feel like he's going to be like a First Order officer.
He has that look, right? Like that thin, pale Englishman, right?
Exactly. Like that's what you. I mean, he's definitely charismatic and sort of fun-loving type of guy too. So you could totally end up throwing him the other way as well. But I kind of feel like Imperial officer or First Order officer makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, we need some more blood on the First Order side. Like we have enough characters on the Resistance side to love. We don't need any more. So yeah, it makes sense that they're like kind of filling that out.
Right.
I'm excited. I think it's great casting. The guy's a great actor, and you know, having a Doctor Who tie-in, you know, can help bridge that universe and those two fandoms and sell some extra tickets. It's a smart marketing move. It's a great casting choice. I'm looking forward to see who he plays. I agree. I think he has to kind of be a First Order officer of some sort, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
He could totally be in like complete makeup and just end up being CG'd.
Right.
I mean, not just hear his voice. That's it.
Yeah. So, all right, well, we'll wrap it up with that. So you can always talk to us on social media to let us know what you think about the Star Wars universe. If you have any ideas, what you want to do in the Star Wars universe, if you want any recommendations of comics to read that we've gotten a chance to read, I recommend both Darth Vader series like crazy. The current one is so good. It's definitely worth your time. And there are plenty of other series that are also great, including this Poe Dameron series, which should be wrapping up in the next few months, as I understand it. So definitely worth checking out. It's a good time to pick that up. I think soon we'll continue with Poe Dameron, but soon we'll also probably start reading Dr. Aphra, which is a new character in the Star Wars universe.
So much fun.
Yes, and introduced in the new in the first Darth Vader Marvel Darth Vader series. And of course, we need to get onto Darth Vader soon because you and I need to keep up with that week to week.
Yeah, so I'm loving that one.
We'll get to that point. We'll maybe we'll up our reading in the next month or so that we can get there. But yeah, let us know what you think. CertainPOV.com. All of our podcasts are there. All of our info, Patreon, and more is all on our website, CertainPOV.com. And until next time, stay scruffy, my nerve herders.